The night sky over Montana burned with unusual lights. Jack Holloway stood on his porch watching the strange glow move across the stars. It was 1989, and the Cold War made him think it might be a Soviet test craft. But deep down, he knew this was something else. Jack was 54 years old now. His hair had gone gray early, and the lines on his face told stories of Vietnam and years working alone on his land. He had been a major once, but now he was just a man with too many memories, living on a quiet piece of land. The light in the sky suddenly dropped. Jack saw it fall behind the tree line about 2 miles from his cabin. The crash shook the ground beneath his feet. "Damn," he whispered, grabbing his jacket and flashlight. Whatever it was, it had come down on his property. He had a duty to check. Jack's old truck rattled down the dirt road. He could see smoke rising above the trees now. As he got closer, he saw broken branches and scorched earth. Then he saw it. Not a plane or helicopter, but something smooth and oval. It gleamed like metal, but moved like something alive when the light hit it. Not Russian, Jack said to himself, keeping his distance. Not American either. A sound made him turn. Jack lifted his flashlight and saw her for the first time. She looked almost human, but wasn't. Her skin was pure white, not like paper but like pearl, and it seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Her eyes were large, with no whites, just deep purple from edge to edge. She wore something like a uniform, a tight silver suit with strange marks on it. Blood ran from a wound on her side, but the blood was clear with a blue tint. The alien woman tried to stand but fell. Jack moved without thinking, catching her before she hit the ground. "Easy now," he said, though he wasn't sure she understood. "I'm not going to hurt you." In the distance, Jack heard vehicles. Military, probably. Someone else had seen the crash. If they found this being, Jack knew what would happen. Tests, experiments, fear, maybe worse. He made a quick decision. "Come with me," he said, helping her to his truck. "They won't find you at my place." The alien woman didn't fight him. Either she trusted him or was too weak to resist. Jack got her into his truck just as the first helicopter appeared over the trees. Back at his cabin, Jack carried her to his basement. Years of not trusting the government had made him prepare a hidden room behind his tool shelf. It wasn't much, but it had a bed and was safe. "This will have to do," he told her, setting her down gently. Jack had been a field medic in Vietnam. He cleaned her wound carefully, not knowing if human medicine would help or hurt her. The cut was deep but clean. He stitched it with steady hands while she watched him with those strange purple eyes. For 3 days, she slept most of the time. Jack brought her food and water, not knowing what she might eat. She tried the water but refused the food. On the 4th day, Jack came down to find her standing, looking at the maps on his wall. "You're feeling better," he said. She turned to him and placed her hand on her chest. "Lyra," she said, her voice like music. "Your name is Lyra?" Jack asked. She nodded. Then she pointed at him. "Jack," he said. "Jack Holloway." Lyra nodded again. She moved closer to him, her movements graceful despite her injury. She lifted her hand slowly and pointed to his head. Jack didn't move. Gently, she placed her fingers against his temples. A strange feeling washed over him, like cool water flowing through his mind. When she took her hand away, Lyra spoke again. "Thank you, Jack Holloway, for helping me." Jack stared at her. "You can speak English now?" "I learned from you," she said. "My people can take knowledge through touch. I am sorry if this was wrong." "No, it's fine," Jack said, amazed. "Makes things easier." Over the next few days, as military vehicles searched the woods near his property, Jack learned more about Lyra. She came from a place she called Nyx, a world far beyond Earth's solar system. Her people were at war with something she called the Scourge. "They consume," she explained one night, sitting across from Jack at his small table. "They take worlds, use them up, move on. My people fight to stop them." "And you crashed here?" Jack asked. "Scout mission," she said. "We found your world. The Scourge will find it too soon. I was to begin preparing." "Preparing for what?" Jack asked, feeling cold suddenly. To help your people leave, Lyra said simply. Before the war reaches here. Jack let that sink in. You were coming to save us? Lyra nodded. But my ship was damaged. I failed. 2 weeks after the crash, Jack knew the military search was getting closer. They had been going house to house in the area. Soon, they would reach his cabin. Lyra knew it too. I must leave, Jack Holloway. How? Your ship is destroyed. She showed him a small device on her wrist. Emergency beacon, but using it might bring danger to you. The Scourge might detect it too. Jack looked at this being from another world. This woman who had come to warn humanity about a danger they didn't even know existed. Use it, he said. I'll be fine. That night, Lyra prepared to leave. She had recovered enough to walk on her own. Before activating her beacon, she turned to Jack. My people will remember what you did, she said. I will remember. She reached out and touched his face gently. A tear ran down her cheek, looking like liquid silver in the dim light. If we win this war, Jack Holloway, I will return. She pressed the device on her wrist. Outside Jack's cabin, the air seemed to fold in on itself. A small vessel appeared, no bigger than a car, hovering silently. Goodbye, Jack said. Lyra walked into the light from the small ship. Before the door closed, she looked back once. Not goodbye, she said. Until we meet again. The ship vanished as strangely as it had appeared, folding space around itself until it was gone. The next day, men in military uniforms came to Jack's door, asking if he had seen anything unusual. Jack looked them in the eye and lied without hesitation. Nothing but the stars, he said. For years afterward, Jack would sit on his porch at night looking up at the sky. Sometimes he thought about the war Lyra had described, raging among distant stars. Sometimes he wondered if she had survived. And sometimes on very quiet nights he thought he could hear her voice in the wind promising to return. 34 years passed. Jack's hair turned from gray to white. His back bent a little more each year. The world changed around him, but his small cabin in Montana stayed mostly the same. Now 78 years old, Jack spent his days tending his garden and his nights looking at the stars. The memory of Lyra had faded but never disappeared. Sometimes he wondered if he had imagined the whole thing, but then he would look at the small piece of metal he had saved from her ship, a twisted bit of something not made on Earth, and he would remember it was all real. One autumn day in 2023, Jack noticed black SUVs in town. Men in suits asking questions. They didn't speak to him directly, but he knew what they were looking for. Something had happened. Something that made the government remember the strange crash from decades ago. That night, a storm rolled in. Thunder shook the windows of Jack's cabin, but one rumble lasted too long. It wasn't thunder at all. Jack stepped onto his porch, his old joints aching, and looked up. The clouds parted like curtains being pulled back. Behind them was a ship, not small like Lyra's escape vessel, but massive. It stretched across the sky like a city floating among the stars. Dark metal with lines of light running through it. Jack knew immediately it wasn't human-made. A beam of light shot down from the ship, touching the ground about 50 feet from his porch. Within the light, a figure appeared. Jack's heart nearly stopped. Lyra stood before him, exactly as she had been 34 years ago. Her white skin still glowed softly in the darkness. Her eyes were still that deep purple. But now her skin had markings on it like moving tattoos that shifted and changed, glowing blue against the white. She wore different clothes now. Not the simple silver suit from before, but something that looked like armor and a dress combined. It flowed around her, but also seemed strong enough to stop bullets. Jack Holloway, she said, her voice carrying across the yard. It was deeper now, more powerful. It seemed to make the air itself vibrate. Jack couldn't speak. He just stared. More beams of light touched down around his cabin. More figures appeared. They all looked similar to Lyra, tall, white-skinned beings, with glowing markings, but none had the same presence she did. The human who showed mercy when my people found none elsewhere, Lyra continued, walking toward his porch. Each step she took seemed deliberate, royal. The other white beings followed. Her, Jack could see they carried weapons, strange, sleek things that hummed with energy. Lyra stopped at the bottom of the porch steps and looked up at Jack. "The war is over," she said. Jack found his voice at last. "You won?" "We won," she confirmed. "And I have returned for you." She pointed to the ground at her feet. "Kneel before me, savior of the Nyx Imperium." Jack blinked. The girl he had saved was ordering him to kneel. He looked at the other beings surrounding his cabin, at their weapons and cold faces. "I would," Jack said slowly. "But my knees aren't what they used to be." He saw something flicker across Lyra's face, a hint of the girl he had known, hidden behind this powerful new presence. Her lips twitched, almost forming a smile. "Come inside," Jack said, turning toward his door. "We can talk where it's warm. Bring your friends if you want, but they'll have to wait outside. Cabin's not big enough." He walked inside without waiting for her answer. Old as he was, Jack Holloway was not a man who knelt easily, not even for aliens. To his surprise, he heard footsteps on the porch behind him. Lyra had followed him inside. The cabin looked small with her in it. She seemed too bright, too otherworldly for his simple home. She looked at the photos on his wall, the books on his shelf, the coffee cup he had left on the table. "You lived alone all this time?" she asked. "Had a wife once," Jack said, putting a kettle on the stove. "Mary, she passed 12 years ago. No kids." He glanced at Lyra. "How about you? You got little white aliens running around somewhere." That almost smile appeared again. "No," she said. "My position doesn't allow for such attachments." "Your position?" Jack asked, taking 2 mugs from the cupboard. Lyra straightened, and that royal air returned. "I am Empress Lyra, first of her name, commander of the Nyx fleet, destroyer of the Scourge, protector of the 17 galaxies." Jack whistled low. "That's quite a business card." He poured hot water into the mugs. "Tea?" This time she did smile, a real smile that transformed her face. For a moment she looked like the young woman he had hidden in his basement all those years ago. "You haven't changed, Jack Holloway," she said, taking the mug. "Oh, I've changed. Plenty," Jack said, sitting at his small kitchen table. "Just not in the ways that matter, I guess." Outside, the massive ship still hovered over his property. The other white beings still stood guard. But in his kitchen, it was just Jack and Lyra, drinking tea like old friends. "So," Jack said, "you want to tell me what this kneeling business is all about? And maybe why you've parked a city-sized spaceship over my house?" Lyra set down her mug. "The war against the Scourge lasted 28 of your Earth years. Billions died. Dozens of worlds were destroyed." Her eyes grew distant. "We were losing until we discovered something unique about humans." "What's that?" "Your DNA," Lyra said. "Specifically a genetic marker that makes humans naturally resistant to Scourge infestation." Jack frowned. "How did you discover that?" "From you," Lyra said. "The bandages I used on my wounds. They contained your DNA. Our scientists studied it and created a weapon that could finally defeat the Scourge." Jack sat back in his chair. "You're saying I helped you win your war?" "You did more than help," Lyra said. "You saved us. Without that genetic marker, the Nyx would have fallen. Then the Scourge would have come here to Earth." She reached across the table and placed her hand on his. Her skin was cool to the touch. "You didn't just save me that night, Jack Holloway. You saved trillions of lives across 17 galaxies." Jack didn't know what to say. He had been a soldier once. He had killed men in Vietnam. The idea that he had saved lives, trillions of them, was hard to grasp. "That's why I asked you to kneel," Lyra continued. "Not as a sign of submission. In Nyx culture, kneeling is the highest honor. It shows that you are willing to humble yourself before someone you respect deeply. I wish to kneel to you, but as Empress, I cannot kneel first. Protocol requires you to kneel, then I would kneel in return." Jack laughed softly. Well, that's not how we see it on Earth. Here, kneeling usually means surrendering or giving up power. I see, Lyra said. Cultural differences. So why come back now? Jack asked. After all these years? Lyra's face grew serious. 2 reasons. First, to formally thank you and bring Earth into the Nyx Imperium as equals. With the war over, we are rebuilding, creating alliances. Earth would benefit greatly from this alliance. And the second reason? Lyra's eyes seemed to look through him. Our ship scanned you when we arrived. You're sick, Jack. Jack nodded slowly. He had suspected for months. The pain in his stomach, the weight loss, the tiredness. Cancer? Yes, Lyra confirmed. Advanced stage. Your doctors would give you 6 months, perhaps less. Jack took a sip of his tea. He wasn't afraid of death. He had lived a long life. But he had to admit, seeing Lyra again made him wish for more time. Well, he said finally, that's life, isn't it? We all go sometime. Not necessarily, Lyra said. Her markings pulsed with blue light. Our medical technology is far beyond Earth's. We can help you, Jack Holloway, if you'll let us. Outside, the first light of dawn touched the Montana hills. Jack's small cabin sat in the shadow of an alien warship, while inside, an old man and an empress from the stars discussed the future of both their worlds. News of the alien ship spread fast. By noon, military helicopters circled at a distance. Roads to Jack's property were blocked. News vans gathered at the perimeter set up by men in uniform. Inside the cabin, Jack watched the commotion through his window. Your arrival is causing quite a stir, he told Lyra. Expected, she replied, standing beside him. First contact is always difficult. Jack laughed. This isn't first contact. You were here 34 years ago. That was unofficial, Lyra said. This is formal introduction. A black helicopter landed near the roadblock. Men in suits stepped out, looking up at the massive ship hovering above Jack's cabin. Government big shots, Jack muttered. Coming to see what's going on. They will want to speak with me, Lyra said. Are you going to talk to them? Lyra turned to Jack. I came for you first. The rest of humanity can wait. 3 men in suits approached the cabin, escorted by soldiers. Jack sighed and opened his door before they could knock. Figured you'd show up eventually, he said. The lead man, gray-haired and stern-faced, looked past Jack to Lyra. His eyes widened at the sight of her. Mr. Holloway, he said, recovering quickly. I'm Director Alan Keller, Homeland Security. We need to speak with your guest. Empress, Lyra corrected, stepping forward. I am Empress Lyra of the Nyx Imperium. The men exchanged glances. May we come in? Keller asked. It's my house, Jack said. And I say no. You want to talk, we can do it right here on the porch. Keller frowned but nodded. Very well. Empress Lyra, what is your purpose on Earth? I have come to honor Jack Holloway, she said, and to offer Earth a place in the Nyx Imperium. A place? One of the other men asked. What exactly does that mean? Alliance, Lyra explained. Exchange of knowledge, technology, protection. Protection from what? Keller asked. The universe is vast, Lyra said, and not always kind. The Nyx Imperium offers safety. Sounds like you're asking us to join you, the third man said. The United States doesn't join other nations. We certainly won't submit to an alien empire. Jack saw Lyra's markings pulse with a darker blue. She was getting annoyed. You misunderstand, she said. The Nyx do not conquer, we invite as equals. And if we decline? Keller asked. Then we leave, Lyra said simply. But first I will help Jack Holloway. He saved my life. I owe him a debt. The men looked at Jack with new interest. You know this in person? Keller asked him. Met her back. In '89, Jack said. Her ship crashed on my land. I helped her out, kept it quiet. You hid an alien from the U.S. government. Keller's voice was cold. Yep, Jack said without apology. Best decision I ever made, looks like. According to her, it helped save the universe. Keller turned back to Lyra. We'll need to discuss this with our superiors. The president will want to meet with you. Later, Lyra said. First, I must help Jack. He is ill. What's wrong with him? One of the men asked. Cancer, Jack answered for himself. Pretty bad from what she tells me. Our medical team can check you out, Keller offered, but Jack shook his head. No offense, but I think her doctors might be a bit more advanced than yours. Lyra raised her hand, and one of the beams of light from the ship intensified. Another white-skinned being appeared, carrying what looked like a silver briefcase. This is Nix, our chief medical officer, Lyra introduced. The newcomer bowed slightly to Jack. We should discuss this further, Keller insisted. There are protocols. You can discuss all you want, Jack interrupted. But it's my body and my choice. I'm going with Lyra. Keller's face hardened. Mr. Holloway, this is a matter of national security. You can't just... Actually, I can, Jack said. I'm 78 years old. I fought for this country in Vietnam. I paid my taxes. I lived a quiet life. And now I've got aliens offering to cure my cancer. So unless you're planning to arrest me, step aside. Lyra placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. We will return, she told the government men. Jack will be safe. Before Keller could respond, the beam of light expanded to surround Jack, Lyra, and the medical officer. Jack felt a strange weightless sensation. The world around him blurred. When his vision cleared, he was standing in a vast room with walls that seemed to be made of flowing metal. The ceiling arched high above, glowing with soft light. Welcome to the resurgence, Lyra said. Flagship of the Nix fleet. Jack turned slowly, taking in the alien environment. It's beautiful, he said. Other Nix moved around the room, watching him with curious purple eyes. Their markings were different from Lyra's, simpler, less intricate. These are my people, Lyra explained. Many have heard the story of the human who saved their empress. I didn't save an empress, Jack said. I saved a scared girl. Lyra's markings pulsed. Yes, that is why you are honored. You helped when you had no reason to. Expected no reward. The medical officer stepped forward with the silver case. We should begin treatment soon, he said. Lyra nodded and led Jack through flowing doorways to another room. This one looked like a medical bay with a bed-like platform in the center and strange equipment around the walls. Please lie down, the medical officer instructed. Jack hesitated. What exactly are you going to do? First, complete diagnosis, the officer explained. Then targeted cellular repair. Will it hurt? Jack asked. No, Lyra assured him. You will sleep through the procedure. Jack nodded and lay down on the platform. It adjusted to his body, molding to support him perfectly. Before you start, Jack said, looking at Lyra, I want to know something. You said I helped save trillions of lives. Tell me how. Lyra sat beside him. The Scourge are parasites. They infect living beings, take control. But human DNA has a unique structure that resists this infection. From your cells, we created a weapon, a virus that could infect the Scourge themselves. A virus? Jack asked. Like biological warfare? Yes, Lyra admitted. It was that or extinction. The virus destroyed the Scourge but left all other life forms untouched. Jack thought about this. And it worked because of my DNA? Not just yours, Lyra said. All humans have this resistance. But you were the first we discovered. Your willingness to help me allowed us to find it in time. The medical officer moved forward with a device that looked like a small silver dome. This will put you to sleep, he explained. Wait, Jack said. One more question. He looked at Lyra. Why did you really ask me to kneel? The truth. Lyra's markings pulsed slowly. In the Nix Imperium there is a ceremony, the Ascension. When one being saves many, they are elevated. The ceremony begins with kneeling and ends with transformation. Transformation into what? Jack asked. Something more, Lyra said softly. Neither fully Nyx nor fully what they were before. A bridge between worlds. Jack considered this. And that's what you want for me? It is an honor reserved for the greatest heroes, Lyra said. But it is your choice. Always your choice. Jack nodded slowly. Let's start with fixing the cancer. We can talk about transformation later. The medical officer placed the silver dome over Jack's head. A warm, pleasant feeling washed over him, and the world faded away. While Jack slept, the Nyx medical team worked. Machines hummed. Lights pulsed. Lyra watched it all, her face unreadable. Hours later, the dome lifted. Jack opened his eyes, feeling better than he had in years. The constant pain in his stomach was gone. His mind felt clearer. The treatment was successful, the medical officer reported. The cancer cells have been eliminated. We have also repaired damage to his heart, lungs, and joints. He will be much more comfortable now. Jack sat up, moving his shoulders experimentally. No pain, no stiffness. How long will this last? He asked. The cancer will not return, the officer said. But you are still human. Your natural lifespan remains unchanged. Jack looked at Lyra. So I'm cured, but I'm still going to die of old age eventually. Yes, Lyra said, unless you choose ascension. Jack swung his legs off the platform and stood. He felt stronger than he had in decades. I need time to think about that, and I think we should get back to Earth before they send fighter jets after us. Lyra nodded. Of course. But first, would you like to see the stars as few humans ever have? She led him to a vast viewing chamber at the top of the ship. One entire wall was transparent, showing the curve of Earth below and the endless black of space above. Jack stood at the window speechless. From this height he could see the blue oceans, the green and brown continents, the white swirl of clouds. And beyond, the stars burned bright and clear, without Earth's atmosphere to dim them. This is what I fought to protect, Lyra said, standing beside him. Not just my world, but all worlds, including yours. Jack looked at her. And now you want Earth to join your empire. Imperium, Lyra corrected. And yes, humanity has potential. Great potential. Together we could build something remarkable. But you need me to help convince them, Jack guessed. Lyra nodded. They will fear us. It is natural. But you can show them there is nothing to fear. Jack turned back to the view of Earth. From up here, the borders between countries seemed so small, so meaningless. I'll help, he said finally. But I can't promise they'll listen. They will, Lyra said. Because you will be the first human to be truly part of both worlds. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings and travel. Jack found himself speaking to generals, scientists, and finally the president herself. Each time he told the story of how he had met Lyra, how he had hidden her, and how that simple act of kindness had led to this moment. Lyra spoke of technology, medicine, and knowledge that could transform human society. Clean energy that would end pollution. Medical advances that would eliminate disease. Faster than light travel that would open the solar system and beyond to exploration. Some listened with hope, others with suspicion. They don't trust easily, Jack told Lyra as they rode in a government car to the United Nations in New York. Humans, I mean. Neither do the Nyx, Lyra replied. Trust must be earned. Jack looked out the window at the city streets. It's strange. A month ago, I was just an old man waiting to die. Now I'm helping aliens talk to world leaders. Your life has always had purpose, Jack Holloway, Lyra said, even when you did not see it. The United Nations building was surrounded by protesters. Some carried signs welcoming the aliens. Others warned of invasion and the end of human independence. Inside, representatives from every nation had gathered. Jack stood at the podium beside Lyra, facing hundreds of suspicious faces. My name is Jack Holloway, he began simply. I'm a retired soldier from Montana. 34 years ago, I found an injured alien in the woods near my home. I helped her, because it was the right thing to do. I didn't know she was important. I didn't know her people were fighting a war to save the galaxy. I just saw someone who needed help. The room was silent as Jack continued. Now she's back. She says her people want to help us the way I helped her. I believe her. I've seen their ship. I've experienced their medicine. They cured my cancer in hours. Think what they could do for all of us. A representative from Russia stood. How do we know this isn't the first step toward conquest? These Knicks could be using you, Mr. Holloway. Before Jack could answer, Lyra stepped forward. Her markings glowed brightly, drawing all eyes to her. The Knicks Imperium spans 17 galaxies, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. We have the power to take this world if we wished. We do not wish it. We have evolved beyond conquest. Then why come here at all? Asked a representative from China. Because humanity is unique, Lyra explained. Your genetic structure helped us defeat the greatest threat our universe has ever known. And because of Jack Holloway, who showed kindness when he had no reason to. What exactly are you offering? Asked the U.S. representative. Technology, medicine, knowledge, protection, Lyra listed. In exchange for cultural exchange and genetic diversity. The war damaged the Knicks. Our ability to reproduce was compromised. Human DNA is compatible with ours. Together we can create a stronger future for both our species. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Jack could see the mix of hope and fear on their faces. There's something else you should know, Jack added. The Knicks helped me, but I'm still dying, just of old age now, not cancer. They've offered me something called ascension, a way to become something between human and Knicks, a bridge between our worlds. You would become one of them? Someone asked. Not exactly, Jack said. I'd be something new, the first of my kind. And you trust them enough to do this? Asked the British representative. Jack looked at Lyra. Yes, he said simply. I do. The debate continued for hours. Nations argued among themselves. Some saw opportunity, others threat. Through it all, Jack stood beside Lyra, watching humanity struggle, with the idea that they were not alone in the universe. As the day wore on, Jack began to feel tired. Despite the Knicks' medical treatment, he was still an old man. Lyra noticed his discomfort and called for a break. In a private room, Jack sat heavily in a chair. This is harder than I thought it would be. Change always is, Lyra said. But progress is being made. Several nations are already willing to open diplomatic relations. And the others? Will follow in time, Lyra said confidently. Once they see the benefits. A young aide entered the room. Mr. Holloway, Empress Lyra, they're ready to continue. As they walked back toward the assembly hall, Jack heard shouting. Then a loud bang echoed through the corridor. People screamed and ran. What's happening? Jack asked. Security officers rushed past them. Stay back, one shouted. We have an active shooter. Lyra's guards appeared around her, weapons ready. Protect the Empress, one ordered, but Lyra pushed past them. Jack, she said urgently. Come. They moved toward the sound of chaos. In the main lobby, they found the source of the commotion. A man with a gun was surrounded by security officers. On the floor lay one of the Knicks delegates, clear blue blood, pooling beneath them. He shot the alien, someone was shouting. He just walked up and shot it. The gunman saw Lyra and raised his weapon again. No alien empress is going to rule Earth, he screamed. Jack didn't think. He moved on instinct, the old soldier in him taking over. He stepped in front of Lyra just as the gun fired. The bullet struck Jack in the chest. He felt a sharp pain, then nothing as he fell backward. Lyra caught him, lowering him gently to the floor. Above them, security officers tackled the gunman. Jack. Lyra's voice seemed far away. Jack, stay with me. He tried to speak but couldn't find the breath. Blood filled his mouth. Lyra placed her hand on his wound. Her markings pulsed rapidly, glowing brighter than he had ever seen. Medical team now, she ordered. Jack felt cold spreading through his body. His vision began to darken at the edges. He had been in combat before. He knew what dying felt like. Lyra leaned close to his ear. "I did not come back just for humanity," she whispered. "I came back for you." Jack managed to focus on her face, one last time. He saw something there he hadn't seen before, not just concern or gratitude, but a deep personal connection. "Ascension," he whispered with his last strength. "I choose ascension." Lyra's eyes widened. "Are you certain? Once begun, it cannot be undone." Jack couldn't speak anymore, but he nodded slightly. Lyra placed both hands on his chest. Her markings spread from her skin to his, glowing lines flowing across the boundary between them. "Begin the ascension," she commanded. The world around Jack faded away. The pain disappeared. He felt himself floating, drifting away from his body. Then a new sensation began, a pulling, a reshaping. He could feel himself changing at the most fundamental level. His cells, his DNA, his very essence being rewritten. In the physical world, those watching saw Jack Holloway's body begin to glow with the same white light as Lyra's skin. His wounds closed. His breathing stopped, then started again with a different rhythm. His skin paled, then took on a pearlescent sheen. "What's happening to him?" the U.S. representative asked, having rushed to the scene. "He is becoming more," Lyra explained, her hands still on Jack's chest. "The first human to undergo ascension. A bridge between our worlds." News cameras captured it all. Across the globe, people watched as an elderly human war veteran transformed before their eyes. For some, it was a miracle. For others, a nightmare. Hours passed. Jack remained in a state between life and death, human and alien. Lyra never left his side, channeling energy into him, guiding the transformation. Finally, his eyes opened. They were still his eyes, but now they held flecks of purple among the blue. His skin had the faint glow of the Nyx, though not as bright as Lyra's, and across his exposed skin, faint markings had begun to appear, pulsing with a soft light. "Jack," Lyra asked softly, "can you hear me?" He sat up slowly, looking at his hands, feeling the new strength in his body. He was still himself, still Jack Holloway, but also something more. "I hear you," he said. His voice had a new resonance to it, a hint of the musical quality that characterized Nick's speech. "I feel different." "You are different," Lyra said. "You are the first human-Nyx hybrid, the first bridge between our worlds." Jack stood surprised by how easy it was. The aches and pains of age were gone. He felt strong, vital. Around him, humans and Nyx alike watched with awe. "What happens now?" the U.S. representative asked. Jack turned to the crowd of witnesses. "Now," he said, "we talk, really talk, not as aliens and humans, but as people who share a universe. The wound that had been inflicted on both species, the attempt to kill a Nyx delegate, Jack's shooting, created a strange opportunity. Seeing the elderly human willing to die to protect the alien empress changed minds. Seeing that same human transformed into something new fascinated the world. As Jack recovered from his transformation, learning to use his new body and abilities, the first treaties between Earth and the Nyx Imperium were signed. The process would be slow, the integration careful, but it had begun. And at the center of it all was Jack Holloway, once a simple man who had made a simple choice to help someone in need. Now he was something the universe had never seen before, a living bridge between two worlds, the first of what might become many. 6 months had passed since Jack's transformation. His old cabin in Montana sat empty now, maintained as a historical site by the newly formed Earth-Nyx Cooperative. School children visited to learn about the man who had changed human history by a simple act of kindness. Jack himself rarely visited Earth anymore. His new body, neither fully human nor fully Nyx, required occasional treatments that could only be provided on the resurgence. But there was more to it than medical necessity. On Earth he was a curiosity, A marvel, something to be studied and questioned. Aboard the Nix flagship, he was simply Jack. He stood now in his quarters, looking at his reflection. His hair was still white but fuller than it had been, with a slight glow like the rest of his skin. The markings on his face and hands pulsed gently with blue light. His eyes, once plain blue, now held swirls of purple. A soft chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Jack said. Lyra glided into the room. In private, she wore simpler clothes than the formal attire she used for diplomatic functions. Her markings glowed brightly, matching the rhythm of his own. "The first human volunteers begin their training today," she said. 20 of your best, pilots and scientists. They're nervous but excited." Jack nodded. "It's a big step. First humans to serve on a Nix vessel." "They asked if you would speak to them," Lyra said, "as someone who has walked both paths." "Of course," Jack agreed. "I'll tell them what to expect." He turned from the mirror. "How are things progressing on Earth?" "Better than expected," Lyra said. "The medical centers we established have treated over 1 million humans already. Cancer, heart disease, genetic disorders, all cured. It has done much to build trust." "And the opposition?" Lyra's markings dimmed slightly. "Still vocal in some regions. Religious leaders claim we are corrupting humanity's divine nature. Military commanders fear dependence on Nix technology. But they are a minority now." Jack moved to the window that looked out into space. From this position, he could see Earth in the distance, a blue jewel among the stars. "Humanity has always feared change," he said. "But we adapt. We evolve." "We?" Lyra asked gently. "Do you still consider yourself human, Jack Holloway?" Jack considered the question. "I'm both and neither," he said finally. "I remember being fully human. I feel what it is to be partly Nix. I stand between worlds." Lyra moved beside him at the window. "That is why you are so valuable. You understand both perspectives." "Speaking of perspectives," Jack said, "the Earth Council wants to discuss the next phase of integration. They're particularly interested in the space elevator project." "A worthy endeavor," Lyra agreed. "It will make travel between Earth's surface and orbit much more efficient." "They also want to talk about more humans undergoing ascension," Jack added. "There are thousands of volunteers now." Lyra's markings pulsed with concern. "We must proceed carefully with that. Ascension changes more than the body, the mind, the very soul is transformed. Not all are ready." "I was ready," Jack said. "You were unique," Lyra replied. "Your act of kindness 34 years ago showed the quality of your soul. And you were dying when you chose ascension. These volunteers are healthy, young. Their motivations may be complex." Jack nodded. He understood her concern. His own transformation had been challenging enough, and he had been prepared for death. For someone young, with their whole human life ahead of them, the change would be even more profound. "We'll create a thorough screening process," he suggested. "Psychological evaluations, interviews, a clear understanding of what they're giving up as well as what they're gaining." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "That would be wise." A communication alert sounded. "Empress," a voice said from the air around them. "The human delegates are ready in the Great Hall." "We will come," Lyra responded. As they walked through the flowing corridors of the Resurgence, Nix crew members bowed respectfully to Lyra and nodded to Jack. He had earned their respect not just as the first human-Nix hybrid, but as someone who had embraced their culture and helped bridge the gap between their worlds. The Great Hall was vast, with a ceiling that seemed to capture the stars themselves. The 20 human volunteers stood nervously together, looking around with awe at the alien architecture. When they saw Jack and Lyra enter, they straightened to attention. Jack stepped forward. "At ease," he said, falling back on his old military habits. "I know this is all pretty overwhelming," a young woman spoke up. "Mr. Holloway, sir, did it hurt? The training, I mean." Jack smiled. "The physical training isn't so different from what you might have done on Earth. The neural interface technology takes some getting used to, but it doesn't hurt. Just feels strange at first. What about the ship itself? Asked an older man. We were told it's partly alive? Nick's technology blends mechanical and biological systems, Jack explained. The ship responds to its crew, adapts to their needs. You'll learn to feel it as an extension of yourselves. He continued answering their questions, watching their faces relax as the alien environment became less intimidating through his familiar human perspective. This was his role now, making the strange familiar, the alien relatable. After the meeting, Jack and Lyra proceeded to the command center. Here, Nick's officers monitored communications from across their vast empire. Screens showed images from distant worlds, some lush and green, others harsh and barren. We've detected unusual activity at the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy, one officer reported, possibly remnants of Scourge activity. Send a scout team, Lyra ordered. Observe only, do not engage. Jack watched her work, admiring the efficiency with which she managed her vast responsibilities. What had begun as gratitude toward the man who saved her had evolved into something deeper, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Later, as they stood together in the observatory dome, looking out at the endless expanse of stars, Jack asked the question that had been on his mind for months. Why did you really come back for me, Lyra? The truth. Lyra's markings pulsed slowly, thoughtfully. The official reason was diplomatic, to bring Earth into the Imperium, to honor the human whose DNA helped save us. And the unofficial reason? She turned to face him fully. In 34 years of war and rule, I never forgot the kindness you showed me. In our culture, such a debt is sacred. But it was more than debt. Her markings glowed brighter. I wanted to see you again, to know if the human who had shown such compassion to a stranger would approve of what I had become. Jack reached out, his glowing hand touching hers. Where, their skin met, their markings aligned and pulsed in unison. And do I approve of what you've become? You tell me, Lyra said softly. I think you've become exactly what your people needed, Jack said. Strong enough to win a war, wise enough to seek peace afterward. I couldn't be prouder of that scared girl I found in the woods. Something like a blush spread across Lyra's white skin. Among the Knicks, such personal conversations were rare, especially for their empress. There is another reason I asked you to undergo ascension, she admitted. Nick's lifespans are much longer than human ones. Had you remained fully human, I would have died long before our work was done, Jack finished for her. Yes, Lyra said, and I would have lost my closest advisor, my friend. The word seemed insufficient for what had grown between them, a bond that transcended species, forged in an act of kindness and strengthened through shared purpose. How long will I live now? Jack asked. It was a question he had avoided until now. With proper care, several hundred of your Earth years, Lyra said. Long enough to see Earth fully integrated into the Imperium. Long enough to watch the first generation of human Nick's children grow to adulthood. Jack thought about that. Centuries of life ahead of him, watching humanity evolve from a single planet species to citizens of a vast interstellar civilization. It was more than he had ever imagined possible. Do you regret your choice? Lyra asked. Jack shook his head. Not for a moment. I've seen more in 6 months than most humans see in a lifetime, and I've helped make a difference on a scale I never thought possible. A communication alert interrupted them. Empress, the Earth Council is requesting your presence. They wish to finalize the agreements for the first joint colony world. Tell them we will attend, Lyra responded. She turned to Jack. Ready to make history again? Jack smiled. With you? Always. Together they walked toward the shuttle bay. Behind them, through the observatory dome, Earth hung in the blackness of space. Still home, still important, but now just one world among many that humanity would come to know. The ship that had once crashed in the forests of Montana had returned as the flagship of an empire. The alien girl Jack had saved had returned as an empress, and Jack himself had returned from the brink of death as something new, a bridge between worlds, the first of his kind, but not the last. As the shuttle departed for Earth, Jack thought about his simple cabin in Montana, now empty but preserved as the place where it all began. He thought about how a single act of kindness had changed the course of two civilizations. "What are you thinking about?" Lyra asked. "That life takes strange turns," Jack said. 35 years ago, I was just a lonely old soldier living in the woods. Now I'm helping guide humanity to the stars. And all because you chose to help instead of fear," Lyra said. Jack nodded. The simplest choices sometimes have the biggest consequences.